So this is our fifth and final installment of the Read Alouds. This is a book called Goodnight Moon, and I picked it because it is the last book, and it's also late at night. I think it's almost midnight by now, um, but it's also considered a classic book. So the year that I bought this book, I think was right before my son was born. We've read it so much to go to sleep many times in one night to get him to fall asleep. And this is the 60-year anniversary of this book. When you look at the pictures in this book, there's a lot to notice as far as like the phase of the moon and the way the shadows like fall over the pictures. And that's what this book is known for. Even though the art might be a little bit rudimentary looking, there's a lot to appreciate as far as what's the elements that are included in there. So once again, this is Goodnight Moon by Margaret Weiss Brown, and the pictures are by Clement Hurd. It's a really simple story, easy to get through, but my son really liked it a lot. In the great green room, there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of, so take a look really closely at everything in there. There's a balloon. Notice the sky in the window and all the small details. The cow jumping over the moon, and there were 3 little bears sitting on chairs. So there's the cow jumping over the moon and the 3 little bears. And 2 little kittens and a pair of mittens and a little toy house and a young mouse. So one thing to pay attention to is also the small house, because it's going through its own phases as well. And then if you look in the bottom corner here, you'll see the moon just creeping in. And as the pages advance, you'll see more of the moon show up. And the shadows look differently as the story advances. And a comb and a brush and a bowl of mush. So for those of you who don't know, mush I think is kind of like oatmeal. And a quiet old lady who was whispering hush. Goodnight room. So take a look at the moon in the, oops, oh no. Take a look at the moon. You can see a little bit more of the moon creeping through the window or peeking through the window. And then you can see how the shadows look a little bit different. Goodnight moon, goodnight cow jumping over the moon. So in this picture you can see more of the moon, and then there's the cow jumping over the moon. Goodnight light and the red balloon, goodnight bears, goodnight chairs. So here you can see more of the moon, and then notice how the shadows look different across the room. And it's supposed to symbolize that it's getting darker and later. And even if you look super close, you can see the time on the clock even changes. Goodnight kittens and goodnight mittens. Goodnight clocks and goodnight socks. So again, you see more of the moon in the window. The shadows look different. They fall differently over the room. Goodnight little house and goodnight mouse. Goodnight Comb and Goodnight Brush. So this book reminds me a lot of like everything that we go through when we're putting our kids to sleep. How, suddenly, I know my son does this where we'll be laying down and then he'll say, Mom, I want one more snack. Mom, can I have water? Mom, I have to use the restroom. So it's always something until finally he falls asleep. So I feel like this book is saying goodnight to everything, right? So here it's saying goodnight nobody and goodnight mush. So everything gets its good night before it's time to finally fall asleep. And good night to the old lady whispering hush. So I find it kind of funny that they say it's an old lady, but it's actually a bunny or a mother bunny rabbit. And you'll notice most of my books this evening did have, most of the books I read had animal theme to it. And good night stars, good night air, and good night noises everywhere. So here's the stars, the air, and good night noises everywhere. So you can see now the moon is fully up, which means it's later at night and the entire room is dark. The end. So this was our final installment of our books, and like I said, I was reading this to you, or I'm reading this to you pretty late at night. But I hope you enjoyed these installments. I'm going to be uploading them pretty soon onto Facebook, so you'll have them tomorrow morning to take a listen through. And then I'll see if I can put them on the YouTube channel as well. Okay? So once again, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed these stories, and I'll be looking for more ideas if you have any of books you would want to hear me read, or even topics that you would want to hear about. I can find books to match them. So beyond that, I hope you had a wonderful spring break, and I'll look forward to seeing you all on Monday morning. Alrighty, thank you, and get some sleep. Good night.